So I've been playing a lot of Astro Bot. I believe I have around 9 hours in the game. And I don't think the game is really that long, but I will say the game is about what, $60, and God knows it is something different. I really miss old platformer type games. I think Nintendo's probably the only ones making platformers these days. Even then, I think they're straying away from platforming and more like a sandbox, open world, like almost type game. Because look at Tears of Kingdom and look at the last Mario game that they made. And even Mario 3D World is a little bit of a sandboxy game. It's not like I mean, it has platforming. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking that away from it. But I think it's straying away from that old school, good level design, straight away platforming game that they used to make back in the day. But even then, it's still platforming, which I give them that. But here come Astro Bot to shake up the gaming industry. Not really. I don't think Astro Bot is really that popular. I don't think I've seen a lot of reviews on it or anybody really giving it the praise that it deserves, honestly. The game is $60 and I felt like I had more fun than paying for a game that's $70 the past few games that released. I don't think anybody can really tell me that there's been a PlayStation game that was a platformer in the past, what, decade maybe? I don't really know. I don't even think the PlayStation 4 had platformers on it. I think the last time I've played a platformer might have been the PS3, honestly. And I don't think the PS5 will ever bring more platformers either. But to my surprise, or at least I didn't think they would bring some platformer. But to my surprise, Astro Bot came along, and I will say the game is genuinely fun. I think there are two audiences to this game. People that are tired of the open world and the boring cinematic movie games that they're making now. And also the old school platforming guys that might have brought them back to, play this game. And I will say now, though, I don't think this game is as good as the old platforming games. Nowhere near close, honestly. It is missing. I do have my problems with it. But first, I'll give it the praise that it deserves. First, again, it's different. Second, it does have good level designs here and there. Like most of the worlds I've played, it has good level designs. I think also there are a lot of little unlockables you can go back and try to get. And also, I think it really make you try to 100% most of the levels, because the game is all about this. You go into a world, you pick up as many Astro Bots as possible, and some of them are actually PlayStation characters or old platforming characters. Like I've seen Jack and Daxter in one of them. I've seen Ratchet and Clank. Like you could design some of the Astro Bots are old characters from games. And I also was disappointed that they brought the new Kratos instead of the old Kratos as a design in the game, which is kind of disappointing. But it's a minor disappointment, not anything gameplay or game breaking wise. And also you even have Bloodborne as a character that you could design your Astro Bot in. I think I even got I think you can even get Clank also, if I'm not mistaken. You can also get you can also find other bots like Nathan Drake and old PlayStation exclusive characters, which I think is pretty cool. But that's essentially the game. You go in there, you find little robots in the world. Also, you find puzzle pieces, which when you go back into the HQ or the hub, whatever, you get to fill in with these puzzle pieces, which unlocks more things. Like, for example, customizing your PlayStation rocket thing. I don't know what it's called, but I know it's your DualShock. The game gives the Astro Bot a DualShock to fly around, which I believe is kind of cool, because throughout the game, also with some of the worlds, you get to blow into the DualShock, which I think is cool. This is something else they're not using in some of these games. Why in the world did PlayStation make the DualShock the way it did with the touchpad and never used it? Maybe never is a wrong word, but I think they barely used it. I would say almost the only game I remember that they used the touchpad back in PlayStation 4 was Until Dawn. That was the only game I remember they actually made you stand still, or they made you swipe the little touching pad so you can, interact with the game more. And I think Astro Bot is exposing that, at least I hope it is. Like PlayStation can see, okay, you can use the touchpad. freaking use the touchpad in other games. Like some of these big games they're making, why am I not using the touchpad? Why am I not blowing into the DualShock? I think that's a cool thing. Like throughout some of the worlds, you can blow into the DualShock and, you know, unlock some like area that would take you, not area, but like certain, you know, it will unlock the level a little bit more. Like maybe there's a puzzle piece up a tree or something. I think there was a part of the world where you blow into this bubble making frog toy thing, and it'll blow bubbles, and you'll jump on top of the bubble and it'll take you up. Like, you know, these are cool platforming things that needs to come back to PlayStation. This is why I strongly believe Astro Bot should be, you know, given that praise so that PlayStation can see, okay, this is something that these people like, make it. Which I surely doubt, because I don't think the game is going to make that much money, but I hope it does though. So, you know, you have that, you can use the DualShock. So all, you know, back to what I was saying, you can customize the little rocket with some of the unlockables, because they're part of the hub where you can use the coins. See, not battle pass, but you can use the coins that you've earned throughout the world and unlock and, you know, win prizes, such as customizing your character and customizing your DualShock rocket thing, which I think it's cool. I honestly think they should have more customization for your character. Like, I should be able to play as most of the PlayStation heroes. There's a lot of old PlayStation games that I didn't really get to play that was in this game, like certain, I don't know, PS1 games that people played back then. They were, I guess, PlayStation exclusives, and I didn't really get to play them, which they're still cool though. I remember seeing some of them, but didn't really get to play them. And you get to customize your character as that. And also the hub, all the Astro Bots you pick up or throughout the world, they can get like their little emotes that were in their game. Like, for example, you had Jill Valentine hiding behind a door, and you could go interact with, like, dude, the hub, you can tell the devs took time to actually, you know, this is what I'm talking about, soul right here. This is what when you hear me talk about some of these games are soulless, it's because they don't really have a charm to them. And I think Astro Bot is really trying to go that way. Like the hub, you can mess around with Crash Bandicoot. You can mess around with Jill from Resident Evil. You know, you can mess around with the Bayonetta lady. You know, it's cool things. Even God of War had its own little section. I think, you know, it has its gameplay, but also it has this part of it that makes it kind of memorable. And I think that's cool. I think that needs to come back into games, which is not a thing these days. It's all about that serious movie crap open world garbage that nobody cares about. Or some souls like I get it. Yeah, the mass majority might enjoy it. The zoomies or normies might enjoy it. But good lord, give us that variety of this type of game, you know. So, you know, some of the worlds also is kind of unique. You get to be like, I think every time you get into a world, you get some special power, like either a punching frog glove or something. I forget the name. But, and also another power up of turning small. I think this part of the world, I played this part, and I guess you turn into a mouse or something. It's so cool because they use the game, you get to turn small, and it also, if you don't, like certain areas, if you don't, you know, shrink yourself, you won't pass the level. You'll have to like, the way to design the level is around that shrinkage of the character, which I think is cool. It reminded me of old PlayStation, old Nintendo 64 games, you know, where they, I don't know if it was Mario 64 that had certain areas where, or even Mario Galaxy. It reminded me of some of these little power-ups that you could play in the old platformers that, you know, it tied into the world, but, you know, it was cool as a kid, especially playing them. You'll be like, this is so cool, right? So in some of the other worlds, you get like a chicken backpack that allows you to fly up, you know, jetpack up or something, and it ties into the level, which I think is cool. And also there are boss levels. This is why I think it's like almost, this game is kind of going the route of if you ever played Mario 3D World, there's certain levels that are normal, and then till you get to the end level that has a boss. So technically, you know, if you remember Mario 3D World, it's the same thing. So, and there are levels that have bosses, which I would say the bosses are genuinely fun. Nothing too go home and cry about. Nothing too epic, if I will say, like some of the old platformers, but still genuine fun. I think my favorite boss so far had to be the iguana. I think was pretty good boss. Also the snake lady was okay too, and some of them like were pretty good, like genuine fun. They weren't boring. That's all I gotta say about that. So I mean, that's all of the game. I think the level design is pretty good. Not anything. I think I was mostly disappointed by them being too easy. That's probably my most gripe about the game that I've played. It's too easy. It's not hard enough. Like, if you remember any of the old platformers, they had their stages that were pretty difficult. Yeah, I know people say platforming games were for babies or baby games. Not really. Have you played any of the platformer games? They had difficult times, especially as a kid, where as a kid you had more dedication to sit there and try over and over. Yeah, they were pretty difficult. And even as adults, I've played some of the old Ratchet games. Freaking had some hard areas. I mean, if you remember, the old Crash Bandicoot games had pretty difficult area. Jack and Dexter had pretty hard areas, or at least levels that were that would make you sit there and think about, okay, what's a different way I can play this. And I think that's another problem with Astro Bot, is that there aren't any different ways to play the game. It's only one way, and this is why I think they really was trying to maybe get the kids audience, because the game is not really that difficult, and also there's only one way to play it. Like, for example, when you play one world, you just play that world once. If you already got everything you need in that world, you don't really have an incentive to go back. You remember in old Ratchet games, some of the weapons you would get would benefit into the other worlds. You would go back, and then you would use that weapon to make more platformers, into the world, which I think is cool. I think Astro Bot should have went that route. Yeah, I'm not gonna harp on it like as a crazy bad thing. I pray to God PlayStation at least. This is why I think there should be more reviews on this game, because somebody needs to expose this part. Like, a dev needs to, whoever made Astro Bot needs to see that, okay, next time we make another Astro Bot game, if they do, or another platforming game, we will integrate some of these old platforming mechanics into it. And I think that's what this game is missing, is another way to play the game. Like, for example, they could have also, since you get to design your character around some of the old PlayStation games, right? I think if let's say I dressed up as Nathan Drake, I get to bring my little pistol into all the other worlds, maybe unlock something that only Nathan Drake's character could unlock. You know what I mean? Or if I played as Kratos or something, maybe also I could go back into a world and I can break a wall or something with his hammer, or and I'm surprised they didn't bring back the blades, which would have been so cool. Imagine using that as in this little platform. That would have been cool. But use his hammer and break a wall or something that would make a way for another platforming area or something, or unlock something for me. Give me an incentive to use them, not just for a design thing. I think this is something modern games need to stop. Don't just give me designs, but give me a reason to get the design, also get rewarded, and also make it an opportunity to open up more into some other world or something. That's double the reward, if that makes sense. So I think that's something they could have used. Or even if I was Solid Snake or something, there was some other area I could sneak through and maybe unlock more things. That would have been so cool if they would have done something like that. And also, I think also the enemies in this game is not too difficult. It's not bothersome. If you remember any of the old platformers, they had, like Banjo-Kazooie. That's a platformer everybody forgot about. But or Mario 64, they had like enemies that would bother the player, that would make it a challenge in the world. Or Ratchet and Clank, that would make it pretty challenging. I think the enemies in this game is not, like, I don't really care about them. I'm running past them, and they can touch me or hit me several times and I won't die. And I think that's something, if they want to make a next platformer, focus on that also. Enemies that could bother the player. And also, another thing I had a problem with this game is that the Astro Bot is not a memorable character.
Crew Play along, and I may be able to get my hands on a few of Crew's secrets.
Who the hell are you two?
I do love a woman in uniform.
Nor do I care about it. I don't mind silent protagonists or type of babyish protagonists like that, but I think it should have a character. And I don't like all the old games, all the old platforming games. The only reason they're memorable is because of the characters. How cool, like Ratchet, you can't forget Ratchet. It's a cool character. You can't forget Daxter, which carried the Jack games. You can't forget even Banjo, a character that doesn't even talk. Mario, a character that doesn't even talk, but still has that adventure and that heroic thing going on for it. And I think which the Astro Bot is missing, and that, you know, if that's the only problems I think I have with the game I can think of right now, that's one of them. And I mean, this is why I strongly believe this game should be the gateway into more platforming. Please, for God's sake, Sony, stop making $700 consoles. Stop putting your time into graphics and cinematic events. You can make easy and cool games. Okay, maybe not easy, but you can make platformers with good level design. Give us a variety, you know what I mean? Back then we had varieties to play. Like, I could play an open world game back then, but I could also stop playing an open world game and play a platforming game that, you know, has replayability. And I think that's also another thing maybe this game is also struggling into. Lack of replayability, unless, you know, because it's easy to find most of the things, at least from what I've played, and it has a lack of replayability. I don't know, something about the old platformers like Mario 64 weirdly have a replayability that I don't know. I actually don't know why Mario 64 has a replayability, but for some reason it does. I don't know, maybe it's the stars. Even then, some people already got all 120, but they still go back and play it. It might be also I think, oh, that's another thing that it's plaguing from. I know I'm rambling, but hear me out. That's another thing that's also plaguing, or that was a hurt or injury for Astro Bot, is there was no soundtrack, memorable soundtrack. Maybe there was two that I kind of be like, okay, this is good, but there's no. That's another thing that made platformers back then, was great soundtrack too. That's something that people, most modern games are missing, is good soundtrack. And I think this is what Astro Bot could have, also exposed to the newer players, is a great soundtrack. Again, it has some soundtrack. If you play it long enough, you'll be like, okay, this is decent. But it's not Ratchet and Clank level. It's not Banjo-Kazooie level. It's not Mario 64 level. It's not Jack level. It's not Sly Cooper level. It's not those game level of great soundtrack. I think also it's another thing that is missing. But yeah, that is Astro Bot in its entirety. I don't think there's any more things to speak about. For this modern time, is a good level designed platformer that if you have the money, $60. If you don't have $60, of course, when it goes on sale, I would recommend you try it out, especially if you're an old school platformer. I think you would like it. It's just something different, and I think more PlayStation players should try, or PlayStation should try to make more of games like this, because it's kind of sad that it's only Souls-like now these days, or it's more open world like these days, or boring over the shoulder The Last of Us games. It's getting tiresome. I think a variety is good. This is why I spoke about in my fixed camera game video that I made. Variety is good when it comes to that. Stop trying to do variety with workers, if you know what I mean. Make variety of games. I think this PlayStation used to be the king of platformers. It used to have cool heroic characters, man. If you remember some of these old E3 videos, they used to have Ratchet as a hero. Remember, those used to be the mascot of PlayStation. Shoot, I think even God of War used to have platforming in some of its old games. I mean, the first game I remember having platforming, and I miss that. You know, these heroes. I miss these platforming heroes, these mascots for PlayStation. Used to be such a cool thing. That, you remember, Xbox had Halo for it going. PlayStation had Ratchet and Clank. You know what I mean? What are the heroes for PlayStation now? What are the heroes for Xbox now? You can't really give me Master Chief because Master Chief has died a long time ago. And so has the Ratchet and Clank games. Don't tell me the Ratchet and Clank games they're thriving. No, they're not. Rift Apart wasn't really that good. The reboot of Ratchet and Clank wasn't even close to the old one. I mean, they haven't made a Jack and Daxter game either. The last Bandicoot game was a racing game, I think, and I think there was also another Crash Bandicoot game that also featured a female character that was overpowering or taking the screen from Crash. And I think same thing that happened to Ratchet. But you know, there's not really a mascot for, you can say maybe Spider-Man, but Spider-Man belongs to Sony and it's also not original. Maybe God of War, even then Kratos has already got cucked in my opinion. Don't really think Kratos is coming back to be in the Kratos it used to be. So even then, what is the thing that's holding PlayStation? Think about that. Maybe they should make more platformers. Of course, I appreciate you for watching this video. I know, I haven't done a lot on this channel. Lord knows that I'm getting older. And also, I think trying to balance this and work is still pretty difficult. And also, I'm getting a little complacent on, you know, coming home from work and sleeping and then waking up. Also, I've been trying to relax and play games a little also. Also I've been also creating, I keep saying also so much, I've been creating some videos, or at least I've been trying to work on some videos, like the Dead Space one. I've still been working on that. There was a couple times I've recorded and the file got corrupted somehow, and it's like I have to re-record. And also I haven't even written the script for that video yet. So that's also another thing. Yeah, and also I'm waiting for Dead Rising and Silent Hill 2 remake. For sure we'll be streaming those when that comes out. I think Dead Rising is in a few days. Oh, it might be next week, right? So be sure to look out for that. I'll be on there playing that. Thanks for watching, of course, man. 2,000 subs, where would I be without that? Without you guys having to subscribe to the channel. I guess I'll be 2,000 subscribers less. But yeah, I appreciate you watching, appreciate the likes. I might not get into the algorithm, honestly, because I haven't really uploaded in like a month. But I think it was worth making a video for this game because not too many people really care about it. I haven't seen too many videos on it, so here you go. Also, we might be playing a little bit of Lollipop Chainsaw whenever I get the chance on the live stream. Yeah, I think that's all I have.